All right, hello everybody, and welcome to Scholar of the Arcane Arts. This is Learning to Spell, and I'm Alias. We're going to be going over another spell combination build, and we're going to be going over some of the nuance of these spells this time. So, the jewel of the build is Saren's Falling Star, which is a 50-second cooldown, full-screen nuke that does absolutely absurd damage. And the best way to get this thing to do really crazy damage is by hitting it. And every time you hit it with a spell, it is going to take the damage from whatever spell hit it and apply that to the end nuke. And the one caveat of that is that you can't just spam a bunch of spells into it. It's got a limited amount of times that it can be hit. So we're going to try and find the spell that is going to power up Saren's Falling Star the most in singular hits, singular massive hits. Now, the best combination that I've personally found so far is Deluge into Water Sphere. So Deluge is a classic little beam spell that you can shoot out. It does very efficient damage, and more importantly than that, it does water damage. And Water Sphere deals damage on hit and repeated hits as well. And the damage that it does is based on how much damage has been put into it. If it's a water spell, it'll only scale up with water spells. Fire spells will make it deal half damage, which is a little bit of a weakness of it. But you can pump so much water in from Deluge that you will get absolutely absurd damage out of Water Sphere per hit. And if you can time everything just right and predict the homing of Water Sphere, which is very easy in boss fights, you should be able to get a beautiful timing where a massively powered up Water Sphere will then also massively power up a Saren's Falling Star. And I have had like over 15,000 damage room clears with this thing. It is absurd the amount of damage you can do with this combo. And the next part of this build that I want to go over is that we've only used up 3 spell slots, and we've got all of our damage covered already. So I'm going to put a heavy focus on defense for the rest of this build, because we do have 50-second cooldowns on Saren's Falling Star and Water Sphere that we're going to have to worry about. So I've got Ronin's Shield, which is just like a really strong defensive earth shield that is super handy, and the best part about it is it doesn't get in the player's way at all. It's very, very convenient for that, because the Water Sphere, if touched by Earth, will actually convert into a bunch of healing, which is pretty annoying when you're trying to play defensively and get your big damage combo out at the same time. So we're going to be using shields that don't get in the way of Water Sphere, such as our Earth Shield, Ronin's Shield, as well as Tar's Rock, which is more of a situational burst shield. And we will also have a Firewall, but ideally we will not be hitting our Firewall and Hydromancy Water Sphere together, because that would be dropping our damage quite significantly. And yeah, I actually really like how much healing that you can get out of this build as well if you're using the Water Sphere for healing. It's very handy for that. All right, and let's talk about the level order for these spells as well. That is very key. Water Sphere and Meteor both don't scale terribly well with levels. Water Sphere is slightly better than Meteor. But the spell that is really the workhorse and secret star of this build is Deluge, which is going to be where a lot of our damage is initially coming from. So we power up Deluge as much as possible with levels, so that way it gets hefty on-hit damage to scale our Water Sphere, which will then be able to scale our Meteor. And yeah, that's the recommended level order. I would recommend leveling Saren's Falling Star the least out of these 3 spells. Both Water Sphere and Deluge are fine to level. And other than that, you could put a hefty focus on Ronin's Shield as well, which is very nice because it gets a significant amount of defense time. One of the biggest weaknesses of the build is the long cooldowns on the Water Sphere and the Saren's Meteor. Don't feel afraid to just use Deluge while you're waiting. It deals significant damage and has a significantly shorter cooldown than the other 2 spells, which is quite handy. But yeah, other than that, I hope you enjoyed the Meteor Master build. I hope this helps you get yet another win in Scholar of the Arcane Arts. And if you've got a cool build that you want to share, feel free to comment it down below, and that could end up in a future video. All right, that's everything. Have a lovely day.